Happy Tuesday, run, try, bike, and everyday athlete community. Welcome to our Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. This is our 149th episode, and I'm excited to chat with our guest, Rich Soares. Rich is a triathlete, coach with TriDot, and the owner of 303 Triathlon. I got connected thanks to Jasmine Moezi of South Bay Tri Squad, whose story we have shared on our website at runtrimag.com. So make sure you go and check out Joanne's story as well as Rich's story, as that's on our website now too, but we're going to get to know him a little bit more during our conversation. Before we bring Rich onto the show, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. We have 9 shows for you, which means there is something for everyone, and we really mean that. Q&A shows like Beyond the Finish Line and Running Tales. If you're into music, we have What's in Your Earbuds. If you like food, and who doesn't, we have Food Fight Friday at the Aid Station, and there's more on that network. So let's bring Rich onto the show and talk to him about how he got started in triathlon and running, why being a coach is important to him, and what makes for a good podcast. Hopefully this is one of those shows that makes for a good podcast. Hey, Rich, how are you?
Jason, I am doing awesome. How are you?
I am fantastic. I had you in the green room just a minute ago and the mic wasn't out. So it's awesome to hear you even more clearly now.
Awesome. Hey, this is going to be a blast. I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, I have been looking forward to this all day, so much so that I got into our studio an hour early. Before we get started, we have an icebreaker question. And that question for you, if you're ready for it, is pineapple on pizza a yay or a nay from you?
Oh, yeah, it seems really unnatural. I have to just on balance say no to the pineapple on pizza. And I get with Canadian bacon and the Hawaiian thing and all that, but no, it just savory all the way for me.
So I have argued this for years now that most people don't like pineapple on pizza because they were like, I like pineapple on pizza with jalapenos or with Canadian bacon or with this or with that or with the other thing. Very rarely has a person said pineapple on pizza only, I'm in. Very rarely does it happen.
It just seems to cross one of those food boundaries. Like some people can't do like fruit and chocolate. Fruit and pizza just doesn't. It's like oil and water. I don't know.
You just opened up Pandora's box for me. Like the fruit and chocolate thing is going to have to be the next question at some point now.
Awesome.
So, out of curiosity, what was more nerve-wracking, getting prepared to answer that question or racing this past weekend at the USAT Winter National Championships?
Oh, I love that question. It's so funny. April and I were just talking about this. We're gonna talk about this in our podcast coming up. We had so many reasons to say no to doing this, right? There are all sorts of things that could turn you away from doing a triathlon in the dead of winter. I mean, February at 9,000 feet of elevation, it's cold. It was 5 degrees. So it was cold. So, there's all sorts of reasons not to roll out of bed for this. It's going to be cold, the traffic. I had never ridden a fat tire bike, a snow bike before. I have done some cross country skiing. I've never run in yak tracks. I mean, there were so many reasons to say no to this. All of those reasons have all flipped to mad recommendation. This is the funnest triathlon I've ever done.
Really? Okay. Before we expand on this, so explain to the audience the winter triathlon. So where are you swimming? Is it an indoor pool, or are you swimming in like the Polar Bear Club where you had to break ice?
So think of this is winter triathlon. This is an international sport. This is a sport that has a world championship, just like real triathlon, but it is not the format that you think it is.
Oh,
It
okay.
is not swim, bike, run. It is actually run, bike, ski, and it is run in the snow. So these are packed snow trails that if you don't have the right foot gear, you're not going to have the traction that you need because it's trail running. It's up and down. And if you get too close to the edge, you're going to get out of the pack snow, and you're going to go straight through. There were people that went like down to their hip. I mean, in the
Wow.
snow. So it's trail run with, spike shoes or yak tracks, fat tire snow bike. So those big, huge, tires, and then your choice of Nordic skiing, whether you want to do classical or skate skiing. And I know how to skate ski, sort of. It's not the most graceful looking thing, but I chose to skate ski.
I had no idea that this is how this all transpired with the run, bike, ski concept. So, what was training like then? Yeah, is that number 60?
Number 60, the Breckebinder. So, yeah.
On the craziest of circumstances, my bib number at Western States was 60. So it must be a good number.
It must be.
So what's training like for you at this point? Like, for an event like this, obviously running and cycling are going to be pretty similar, I'm guessing, but now the skiing part, like, most people don't want to go to the pool and everything else, right? When they're training for a spring or summer or fall triathlon, you've got to strap on skis now. Like, what's that like?
Yeah. So that's a great question again. First of all, the run and the bike, yeah, very similar in terms of like fitness training, getting yourself like to the right fitness level. You're still, doing the same kind of sets that you would do on your trainer, whether you're getting ready for a road try or getting ready for a winter try. But the difference is the bike handling and knowing how to handle a snow bike. And it's one thing, it's like going uphill it's like being on a mountain bike if you're going uphill, right? You're just kind of grinding in a low gear and you just, da-da-da-da-da. But then when you're coming downhill and then you're coming into a downhill that's got a turn, and those big tires, they float on that snow. So you find yourself going into a corner, really trying to optimize that apex of that turn to make it as wide as you can to keep as much speed as you can, but also not go sliding out through the other side. And going in, because if you go through the other side, it's not like you're going to go off the road and into a ditch, but you're going to go into some pretty deep snow. It's going to be really hard to get out of, and I just did not want that to happen. And then the running, like I showed up, I got these great trail shoes, big, good, knobby things. I thought they'd be great in the snow. I got there and I'm like, somebody's like, you better get some yak tracks. I'm like, I got some yak tracks. And those have got some pretty deep spikes to make sure. So it was really transferring the fitness into how do I run in yak tracks? How do I run in this kind of in this kind of snow condition? How do I ride in this condition? The skiing, which is your question, which was, how do you train for that? The running fitness translates fairly well to ski fitness, to Nordic ski fitness to some degree. It's just it's a much bigger effort, especially skate skiing. And so getting some time up at 9,000 feet before this race was important. So I actually came up a few weekends just to, get some skis on and just spend some time out on those trails and really try to find what's really important is finding your pace and just finding the pace that I could sustain for, in this case, the sprint distance is what I did instead of the standard, which was a 5K ski.
So is it like trail running in the sense where you've got a hydration vest so you can get some liquids in while you're doing the skate skiing? And then where does nutrition come into play while you're doing the skate skiing? Because I presume you have ski poles, right? As you're going through this process, are you stopping and pulling over and taking a bar out? Like, walk me through this.
Yeah, no, again, so water bottles don't really work too well at 5 degrees. So let's just start with that.
Yeah, dumb question, dude.
No, totally great question. Actually, I've got my I bring up my little cooler. I've got my water bottles. I've got my hydration vest, and I had all the best of intentions of using it. And then I realized, you know what? And and when we were getting ready to start, they actually told us that from the day prior where they had the duathlon and the ski, which was just a different format, that they had aid out on the aid stations, but everything froze. So they didn't even bother setting it up. And at the sprint distance, I knew, for an hour 20, hour 30, I would be fine if I didn't carry anything. I just hydrated really quick in transition. And now if I was standard distance, I would have used my hydration vest. I would have just put that straw down in the pack and pulled it out when I needed it so that it was warm against my back. I
Yeah.
was generating tons of heat. Tons of heat.
For those of you who are going to be doing the standard distance and want something, could I possibly recommend using the apple cider flavor from scratch and warming it up? Would it still be warm?
Oh, that's an excellent idea. Oh my gosh. Like we should have had this conversation a week ago, my friend, because I would have done that.
So Peter, who works at Scratch, and I are friends, and we've talked so many times. And I remember them not having the apple cider last winter, I believe. And I was like, you guys have got to bring that back. Like, there's so many people that want it. And he swore me to secrecy at the time, and he was like, it's coming back. So just be prepared to order some.
Money.
Yeah. And so I have a couple of pouches here because that stuff is so good, especially on a cold day. And you living in Colorado, it's something that you could just drink while you've, sitting watching the snowfall. You don't have to be out exercising. It's that good.
Yeah. No, that sounds fantastic. Where's the code?
Peter, you hear that? I'm going to tag him in the comments. We've talked a few times in the last couple of months, thanks to Jasmine connecting us. And in our first discussion, I want to go back to the beginning, you getting into these sports before you became a winter triathlon superfan. You said your doctor scared you straight. Thinking back to that time, is it even possible for you to think about you having a conversation today about winter triathlon? Or was it like, I just need to get healthy, man. Like whatever it is, I just need to get healthy and I'll let the path take me wherever it takes me.
Yeah. I think I was inspired to take that first step, that first, walk, jog around the block. One, because I knew I needed to, because my doctor told me you got to do it. But, I could have picked going down to the gym and lifting weights, or I could have picked, going to the pool and starting to swim as an activity. But I think the reason I chose walk running was because I had a neighbor who was a runner. And, but I don't think he'd ever really even done more than a 10K distance, I could never have imagined, could never have even imagined an Ironman, it was just all I could do to think of a 5K really.
So as you're going through this progression of walk, run, thanks to your doctor's advice, to running and marathons and Ironman, why did you keep doing it? Because this stuff is hard. Like one of the things I tell people is like, our sports are hard. They're hard physically, they're hard mentally. And so I always want to know, why do you keep doing this? Because look, reading a book and joining the Book of the Month Club would be a lot less taxing on your body. Playing chess would exercise your mind and it would be a lot less taxing on your body. Like, why did you keep doing these things? And was there ever a moment where you thought, I'm done with this? I can't keep this up.
Oh yeah. Wow. Why did I keep doing it? It's not like you see progress right away. You're like, I've been doing this for a couple weeks, and I mean, I guess maybe the reason I kept doing it was because I was actually seeing that each day I could go a little further, each week I could go a little further. And I guess it became a little bit of a curiosity thing, well, just how much farther is farther. But then I also think that, there's a point where you become a little more self-aware that there's something else going on besides the physical changes. And I can't put my finger on exactly when that was, but I started to realize I'm actually taking something away from this that's bigger than just going a little bit further each day. there was this now trying to manage my behaviors instead of letting my behaviors manage me. Manage my impulses instead of letting my impulses manage me. And there was like a kind of a personal control mastery thing going on that became intriguing, I guess. We pause there.
Yeah, I just interviewed Shannon Booker for a story coming up, and Shannon talked about he was using running to run away from his problems, and he was not having fun with it, and then he realized that if I use running to run through my problems instead of running away from my problems, I can have a lot more fun, and that switch flipped for him. And that kind of reminds me of what you just said, which is sort of flipping the script on the sports and allowing yourself to not just go further, but to enjoy going further at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, you're discovering new things about yourself. And especially, and this is something that you drew out in our conversation a couple weeks ago, which was, I guess I never really considered it, but it was actually fear. There's a fear that keeps somebody from going out the next day and taking the risk and hitting the sign up button on a marathon because, well, now if I do that, I have to really invest myself and invest myself and risk failing or sabotage it so that I don't ever have to attempt it, out of fear.
And either way, in those scenarios, you come out on the wrong side of the equation, right? If I'm sabotaging myself or I'm fearful and I never go forward, you're self sabotaging your own progress, and that kind of leads me to this next question. But I'm going to come back to the other question, which is: has you ever thought about just not doing it at all, like quitting on the entire sport and going somewhere else? But as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about how our sports translate to life, where things are hard, but we've done hard. And so we go and we pursue things like business ownership or starting a podcast or creating content without knowing what the end result is going to be. People might love it, people might hate it. Can you point to a specific example in your life outside of sport where you don't think you would have taken the chance or the risk had it not been for you going through the process of hard to success through sport?
I can't think of a place in my life it hasn't reached, honestly. I pro- probably walked away or steered away from taking on risks at work, in family, in finance, in being an entrepreneur, steered away from taking any risk. And it was funny because I remember at one point in my career, I changed bosses. My new boss asked me, "Would you consider yourself a risk taker?" And I was like, "Hell no." Um, and I was like, and it's funny because I had started down this journey, but I hadn't quite, arrived at the end of I hadn't really, really matured as an athlete yet. Now I would say that I've learned to be able to transfer not only the willingness to take on a risk, but then put together the plan, the daily routines, the habits that you need, the discipline that you need. I mean, I guess this kind of comes back to you know, I don't want to take credit for this phrase, so I'm going to give credit where credit is due. My coach, Mark Allen, says, live the life that you asked for, which basically means, you want to get to the world championship. That means you got to live the life that it takes. That means the habits, the routines, the mastery of your decisions every day, um, the executing the workout every day to get to that point, whatever your goal is, whatever you're trying to master.
I think that's a super important concept for everybody to keep in mind. One of the phrases we have in our household is live a good story. And I don't think you can live a good story unless you live the life that you want, right? And to your point, to Mark Allen's point, which is if you want to race at Kona, then you're going to have to live the life that it takes to race at Kona. If you want to run the Boston Marathon, you're going to have to live the life that it takes to run the Boston Marathon. Anybody who has followed me on any social media platform knows that one of my biggest pet peeves is this concept of hacking. I'm going to hack my way to success. I think it's complete and utter bullshit. You have to put the work in to whatever you input is going to be the output. And so if you're hacking and taking shortcuts, that's the result. That's what you're going to get. And it's going to end up taking you a lot longer than if you had just done the work to begin with. When you think about your journey through sport to this date, have there been moments where you thought, I'm fit enough, I don't have to do this extra training, I can get through the race, and then you get to the event and it doesn't turn out the way you had hoped it would?
Yeah. Yep. Under preparation, definitely something that I've experienced, and probably maybe less so in terms of the volume of the training, but maybe not putting in the science and the field practice that I needed to of nutrition. That for me personally, that was my Achilles heel was getting the nutrition right. I am a heavy sweater. I lose a lot of sodium, and so it takes a lot to keep up. Um, so if I've had a thing that really has been one of my sticking points in my athletic career, it was that.
Where does the mental aspect of the sport come into play when it comes to training for you? Are you the person who takes notes, in their training log and their training journal? This was hard in this moment, and here's how I overcame it. Like, how do you exercise the hardest muscle to train, which is the one that lies 6 inches between your ears?
Yeah. So this is actually my favorite part of coaching, which is the mental skills and how to prepare for, really how to, if you're really trying to get the most out of your training, you want to go into it with the best plan and intentionality, right? Each and every single workout, right? And understanding kind of why that workout exists. And so, what I will do is I will have a plan. If I'm training indoors, I actually have a big whiteboard that I am writing down those target power numbers based on you know, in this case, taking into account altitude and temperature and that sort of
Mhm.
thing, right? Um, and I'm making sure that I am really going into that workout with a lot of intention. And I find as much value in training as I do racing. I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of knowing I managed my preparation for it. I managed, enough time for the workout. And sometimes I don't. And that is actually where I judge myself is how did I prepare and execute today? Not really necessarily what the outcome was. Did I bring everything I had today?
I've one of the things I love about hosting a show is the number of questions that pop up into my head as the guest is answering. And so I go back to you telling me that you're not a risk taker, or telling our audience that you're not a risk taker. And then I hear you say, I write down my power numbers based on elevation in this case and the event and whatnot. And I wondered to myself, I wonder if Rich takes risks when it comes to training. In other words, if you keep doing the thing that you're doing, you're going to get the results that you're going to always get. But do you then say, okay, this is a different type of format, or this is a different distance, and the 8 by 3-minute hill repeats I used to do, I need to make it 10, or I need to make it 4 with faster work? Like, do you take risks in that sense where you're moving workouts around or adding in new workouts that you've never done before to your training plan?
Absolutely. In fact, there's a really good example, and I do this with my athletes too, especially those that are really trying to go into a race with the right mental state in terms of pacing and the rate of perceived exertion that they're going to have through the race. And so, like, there's a really kind of staple bike workout or weekend workout, which is a threshold and hold bike workout followed by a transition run, an off the bike run. And this threshold and hold is made up of a warm up. It's got a couple of sets at zone 4 and then a couple of sets of really longer zone 3 before it then just tapers off into zone 2 until whatever the duration is for that athlete, depending on what they're preparing for. If you're preparing for an Ironman, it might be a 5-hour ride. If you're preparing for a half, it might be a 3-hour ride or 2.5-hour ride. You want to really challenge yourself, flip that thing around, spend the first half of the ride in zone 2, then spend the next third of that ride in zone 3, and then spend the last third of the ride in zone 4, just as if you were building into your pace on the bike, right? That's much more challenging.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I don't raise my hand all the time to do that, but sometimes my coach will say, "Hey, this is a good workout. You've got this race coming up. This is a really good one to flip it and do it the hard way."
As you're giving me the answer of zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, I'm thinking you've got to be doing this on the trainer. And I'm like, but then he said it's a 5-hour ride. And I said, but he still has to be doing this on a trainer because, you might find yourself like you need to be in zone 2, but now you're climbing, a 12% grade and that's not happening unless you just got off and walked the bike up the hill. So is this more of a trainer ride for you then?
Oh yeah. These
Yeah.
will be trainer rides. Yeah, for sure. Especially here in the dead of winter in
Yeah.
Colorado. It's cold and snowy out there. You don't, yeah.
So how do you pass the time on the trainer? Like I've done 6 hours on the trainer before and I have my own ways to get through it. How do you get through it?
In the old days, I used to just put up, throw a disc in the, DVD player, and go through 2, 3 movies or something like that. Nowadays, it's great. I use full gas now, Ruvi, and just I'll ride whatever course it is that I want to ride. We just a couple weekends ago we did Pikes Peak. You can ride so many awesome rides out there. It feels just like you're out there.
I give all the athletes who use that or Zwift for that matter all the credit in the world. When I was racing Ironman and I'd be on the trainer for 4 to 6 hours, I had a subscription to Zwift, but I would have the laptop to the side with the screen down because I never felt like I was in the ride. I felt like I'm just looking at animation, and I had a music stand in front of me, like a conductor's music stand. So I'd put my iPad on there, stream Netflix or whatever, and I'd watch movies, and then I'd have my phone because the Zwift app would allow you to look at, you power through the phone without actually having to look at the Watopia or whatever it might be, And so I would always be able to hold my zones because that's how I got through it. I had to watch movies. Nowadays, I'm sure people listen to podcasts. Hopefully, this one will help somebody in the future in their riding. But yeah, for me, it was always movies.
Yeah.
Did you have a go-to movie back in the day when you were popping DVDs into the DVD player as we age ourselves?
I did. I did. That's so funny. I can't believe you're pulling on this thread and it's like actually got stuff behind it. I was just on a thing with Spy Game or
Okay.
Spy Games. Remember that Robert Redford and oh, this is terrible.
The only Robert Redford I can recall off the top of my head is All the President's Men. And that's definitely dating myself.
That's definitely dating yourself. No, this was definitely more recent. Brad Pitt and Robert Redford were in it. Spy Games. Anyway.
Gotcha. For me, it was Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. Like I could watch that movie constantly. And if you were fortunate enough, it was always on TBS on a Saturday. You didn't even have to go to Netflix or wherever to stream it because TBS would always have it going on like a marathon usually.
That's funny.
So I'm going to go back to that question that I asked you earlier that you definitely avoided, but since I'm a hard hitting journalist, I'm going back to it. Has there been a moment when you just thought, you know what, this stuff is just getting too hard? It's either too time consuming, or I'm not enjoying the sport as much as I used to, and I need to go find a different outlet. Have you ever come across that situation?
I have scaled back what I used to do. Like I think I definitely got to a point with Ironman that I was like, okay, that's my last Ironman. I'm pretty sure. And then I would do another one, and then I would tell my wife, no, I'm really sure this time. And then I finally got to 5, and I'm like, okay, now I'm really, 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 really done. And again, that was a little bit of just, my struggles nutritionally. Just, wasn't enjoying it as much. And I wanted to continue to grow in the sport. So I found a way forward, which was the podcast, learning more, talking to more people, networking, just really starting to learn more, grow my mind instead of, just my distance and my miles. What I found ironic was that I guess I did. I anticipated that someday I was just gonna and I've had give it up. I've had so many friends that have said, "Yeah, I finally retired," or "I'm retiring," or I'm like, "My gosh, you were the reason I got into this and you're retiring? Now what? Like where do all my friends go?" I have found myself much more willing to give up other things than this, including, and I don't have a great diet, but I eat such that I can train and that I can race, and I'm not doing something stupid to myself, hopefully. Gave up drinking because it wasn't compatible with this, and this is what I wanted to this is the life I wanted to live. I just get so much reward from the process of just taking care of myself now, getting an attaboy from my doctor instead of a, "Hey, buddy." Um, you know, but like I said, each day is a chance to, I don't know, keep moving in that direction of that future self you want to become or be, or, it's not like I'm trying to change. It's just like, I know who I want to be. And so how do I have to show up today to do that?
Where does coaching fit into this? Because coaching is a service to others. And I'm wondering if that also ignited something in you that said, I want to be a part of this, because you're now helping others go through their journey as you went through your journey, along with a coach for you to help you get through that process. So, where does coaching and the service to others fit into this whole concept of this is where I want to be?
Everybody that goes through this is a very personal journey, right? It's a very personal experience. You have your extremely personal reasons for doing it. It's kind of like, that 5 whys, right? Asking those, a why, and then why, and then why, and then why, and then why. And what I get so much personal gratification out of is the personal transformation that I see somebody else go through, right? I mean, like, I know what that was like for me personally, and like the things that I didn't see coming, the things that I'm like, wow, better than I ever hoped for, in terms of some of the outcomes here. And you get some people who need this to make personal transformation. They recognize right off that this is going to be a way to make personal transformation. I have an athlete that signed up this year, and I asked her, I'm like, our first meeting after she agreed to sign on, I'm like, I just want to acknowledge that you have decided to make a very big commitment, not just of your time, but of your money. I mean, this is, you're making a part of a car payment here,
Yep.
every month for this service. Tell me, why this is so important that you are willing to make that big of an investment in yourself. And she said, I'm a nurse. For the last 20 some years, I've been taking care of my kids and my husband, and I've lost track of who I was. And this is a way to find myself again. I'm like, now we are talking. And now to have this vehicle where I know that like we're making a difference for her every week. And like, it makes it so important for me. Like, it is the most important meeting on my week to make sure I am there here in my seat to have this conversation, to be on this journey with she and he and, anybody all the folks I work with. And not all of them get that right away. Some of them, they have to figure it out.
Yeah. One of the guiding principles for me as a business owner, which is translated into a lot of other facets of my life, is Simon Sinek's book, which is Start With Why. And I don't know if you've ever read the book or not. And for the audience, go to YouTube, search for Simon Sinek, Why. There's a 17, 18-minute TED Talk. And basically what he says is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And in this case, with this athlete that you're talking about, like her why is extremely strong. And it's something that you can fall back on when things get hard, when the training is hard, and when she has questions of ability, right? We're here to help you find yourself. We're here to help you take care of yourself. And that will reinvigorate her and inspire herself with her own words. And I just find that to be super important, to have a really strong why, because like I said earlier in this conversation, these sports are hard, right? Like if you're a parent and you got to get up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to get running in before you got to get kids off to school, or you're trying to do it at 9 p.m. at night, like this stuff is really, really hard. So your why has to be super, super strong. Would you agree?
I would, and I would say, if you're listening to this, you can take yourself through this, right? You can start with, why do you want to do this? Well, I want to see what my personal limits are. Well, why? And well, because I guess I've never really challenged myself in the past. Well, why? Well, because, I failed out of school and, I just haven't, okay, now we're digging into some, okay, you've got something that is really meaningful to you now that you can tap into.
I'm going to jump into the 303 Triathlon, your podcast, and your business, because I think this is a perfect segue. I'm smiling as you're talking about this topic of helping others and finding their why. And it's one of the reasons why I love owning Run, Try, Bike, is because I get to talk to athletes like yourself and finding their why. As a podcast host, you're creating content. Do you find it difficult to separate yourself from the stories that are being told to you, because you're also a coach? And so if somebody's saying something to you about maybe it's RPE or the training that they're doing, do you find it difficult to stay on the outside and have a conversation, as opposed to being a fixer and saying, well, no, this is how you should be doing it?
So I'm just going to make sure I'm tracking the question here. So as a podcaster, I'm interviewing coaches and I might be asking them about their opinion on something or how they would approach something. And I have a disagreement. I have a fundamental disagreement with what they are saying. I don't ever engage like that in that kind of a forum. I am, in my podcast style, what I am trying to do is really help my athletes get as much from this individual as I can. This person is on my podcast because they have better credentials than me. I guarantee it. And I want one of the things I've learned as a podcaster is, if I see my bar when I'm editing, if I see a lot of waves on my bar, I really failed in this interview. I want to see as few waves on my bar as on my channel as I can, because that means that I've asked a good question that has got my subject, sharing as much knowledge as they have.
Yeah, as they say, ask the question and get out of the way. That's it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Have you had a coach tell a story or give a tip that just hit you over the head in a good way? Like, I had not thought of that. That's an amazing story, concept. Is there one that you can point to so that we could send our audience to go listen to it?
Yeah. I think I think probably the most fundamental thing for athletes to get right is sleep. And I think that I think so many athletes underappreciate, not everybody. This is not a, I mean, I talked to a lot of athletes that really love their sleep and will get in plenty of sleep. But I also work with a lot of really busy professionals that are, and their parents. And I'm like, "Are you getting plenty of sleep?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, how many hours was that?" "It was 6 hours, coach." I'm like, "Hmm." I think we know why you're not feeling so good, why you're having a hard time putting up those power numbers or holding that pace or whatever. Um, yeah, the interview is with Dr. Kirk Parsley. There's actually 2. I've actually interviewed him twice, because of, popular demand, and decided to have him back and go a little deeper. But actually, the first one you find in the sequence, probably under the name of the podcast at the time, was the Mile High Endurance Podcast. Another story for another time, but uh, just Google Rich Soares and Dr. Kirk Parsley, and you'll find it.
We'll drop that into the article that we post to our website as well. We'll have a link to the episode there for sure.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. As a doctor and as a Navy SEAL, he was a doctor in the Navy SEALs, working with, obviously, some very high performing individuals, and really understands the challenges of sleep for people who, are challenged to get sleep.
That's awesome. So we're gonna transition here in a moment because we are triathletes. So we transition into some rapid fire food questions. But before we do that, Rich, let people know where they can find you if they want to bring you on as a coach. They want to listen to your podcast episodes. Where can they find you?
Yeah, awesome. Glad you asked. Please check us out at 303triathlon.com. That is obviously 303. That's our podcast and our blog and social media. And then if you want to get in touch with me as a coach, you can go to Grit to Greatness Endurance. That's grit, the number 2, greatnessendurance.com.
We'll drop that into the article as well when we share it, folks. All right, Rich, this is one of my favorite parts of being a podcast host is because we get to talk about food in a not so serious way. Are you ready for these? By the way, we call them rapid fire, but by all means, take your time, think deeply on them, because if there's anything I love more than a good food conversation, I have yet to find it. Okay. So here we go. Oreos. Are you a fan of the old school Oreo, the double stuff Oreo, the thin Oreo, or the Cakester Oreo?
I have seen the double stuff. I think I just like the old school plain where I think it was the right mix, the right kind of cookie to icing mix, and then you twist it and oh yeah.
Oh, so you're a twist and scraper. You're not a dunker.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had Jason Fitzgerald on a few months ago, and I asked him that question, and he gave me an answer I'd never heard of when it comes to consuming Oreos. He said he takes the first Oreo and he throws it in the milk and lets it sit there and disintegrate while he's eating the rest of them, right? And then when he goes to finish the milk by drinking it, he gets like this rush of almost like a cookies and cream ice cream because the Oreo has just completely disintegrated into the glass that his milk was in. And I just thought that was genius.
I think that might be something I try in the next whenever we're done here. I might have to go try that out right away.
Shoot me an email. I want to get your answer. You might have to videotape it for us.
Sounds
Videotape it. I
amazing.
just dated myself again. We've had DVD players and videotape on this show now. Licorice, red or black, or none at all?
Black.
Oh, you're an anise fan.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
No brainer.
You might be one of the very few people. This is our 149th episode that has said black. That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Most
Okay.
people are red and or none at all. So
Outliers.
yeah, for sure. What turned you on to black? Was it something you had as a kid?
I just like the taste of it. I like ginger. I like,
Yeah.
tangier things, I guess.
Yeah, a stronger taste profile because I love ginger too. Like my favorite
Oh,
cookie
yeah.
is gingerbread cookie, ginger
Ginger
snaps.
snaps. Oh,
Yes, can't go wrong.
honey. Yeah.
Are Peeps a real candy, or are they just stale marshmallows covered in gold glitter?
Not, they don't even qualify as stale marshmallows. Those things are toxic waste, man. No. I can't even think about putting one of those in my mouth.
I'm ready. I can't wait for this one then. Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
No, candy corn's a sure. Candy corn's a real thing.
Oh
Yeah,
wow!
yeah.
Are you the
Like
are you the person who likes the candy corn that iteration that had the brown on the bottom, or just give you orange, yellow, and white?
orange, yellow, and white. Yeah.
What about the pumpkin candy corn, the pumpkin variety when Halloween rolls
Yeah.
around?
I think that's fine too. I think yeah, it's just in a different form. I'm not a big candy eater, but actually candy corn, I could make an exception for.
All right, well, we're going to stick on the candy path, even though you're not a big candy eater. Grandma's got her candy bowl out. There is the butterscotch, there is the peppermint, and then there is the strawberry hard candy, the strawberry filled hard candy. Which one are you taking?
I know all of these well. Butterscotch, hands down. My grandmother had butterscotch. I loved them. Yeah.
Werther's
Still do.
Original or Brock's?
Oh, Werther's Original, I think. Yeah.
That's a good one. It's hard. Look, you're not getting an argument from me. I love butterscotch too. Creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
Crunchy.
How do you make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Do you put the crunchy peanut butter on one slice of bread, jelly on the other, smash them together? Or do you put peanut butter on one side of the bread, jelly over top of it, and then fold over the other piece of bread?
Okay. So, peanut butter on both sides.
Oh.
And then I use honey in between instead of the jelly. And I use the honey to glue the two sides together.
Honey glue.
And yeah. And, and then that goes into a little plastic bag. That's a kind of a good, it'll put in your back pocket while you're riding for a while.
Yes. So are you leaving it as just a square, or do you cut it? Do you cut it into two rectangles, two triangles? How do you, just a square?
Yeah, just a square. You got to one hand that thing, right? So,
so I told you I could talk about food all day, man. So now are you biting right into the middle of the sandwich, or are you eating from edge to edge like corn on the cob?
Oh, probably more like corn on the cob. Definitely I'm going to get one side. And you don't want to go for the other, corners or boundary, like unless you got some oozing out, then you want to get that before, as it's oozing out before it hits the, whatever.
So we had Shannon Mick on this show, and her answer was she cuts it into two rectangles, but then she turns the half a sandwich sideways and uses the crust as a handle and eats it like corn on the cob. So she eats the interior piece, and so she just ends up with the crust on the outside. She doesn't like the crust.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So, again, dude, I could talk about food all day and people's food habits because they blow my mind. Like, this is fascinating to me.
Crust phobia.
Yeah, crust, literally, right? And yet I love the crust. I love pizza bones are my favorite. Oh my goodness, the best. If they're like, when I see people eating pizza and they're just piling up the crust on the side, I want to lean over and be like, "Can I have those?"
What's wrong with you? Yeah.
Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
Chocolate cake dressed up to the prom, understatement. Again, it's almost in the peep category for me. Not a red velvet fan at all.
Look, If it's cake, there's a very good chance I'm eating it, but it's definitely not the first one on the top of the list for me.
Yeah.
So what's going to be on the top of the list of cake for you? What's the first cake you're like, if you had your druthers and somebody was going to bake you a cake, what are you asking for?
Tiramisu. I'm not sure that really counts as a
Oh,
cake, but definitely a tiramisu.
is it because
I
of the
mean,
coffee?
yeah, I'm just a big yeah, and I like that just that, like, soft, like, kind of sort of damp, spongy cake, you know? Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, tiramisu is hard to beat, man. It's really hard
I
to
mean,
beat.
if I've got tiramisu at the end of the buffet line, I'm gonna start at the other I'm gonna go upstream because I'm gonna start there because life's uncertain, so
Like your bike trainer workout. Let's flip it.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite pie? Is there a pie that you're like, this is number one? Everything else is second place.
Lemon cream.
Oh, so you definitely do like tangy then.
I like tangy, yeah, like coffee, yeah, strong, bold flavors, yeah, but
Yeah,
I used to like red wine when I used to drink wine, but
yeah. I'm a key lime pie guy. So again, that
oh,
tangy
yeah.
hit you in the face flavor. Give me key lime pie all day. Do you have a favorite flavor of ice cream?
Pistachio
Interesting. As
with the
in,
nuts.
yes,
Oh, yeah, you gotta have, like,
as
the nuts.
ice cream or as gelato.
Either, actually. I would go with either, but, yeah,
So
pistachio.
if pistachio is at the top of your list, is that also one of your favorite cannoli flavors, or are you straight chocolate chip or plain
Oh,
cannoli?
no, pistachio for sure. I mean, like, I will go through I got I got 2 bags of big bags of pistachios for Christmas. They were
Yes.
gone 2 weeks ago. I mean,
I love it. I have two more for you here. Actually, maybe three more. Chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin cookie?
oatmeal raisin cookie.
Savory or sweet? One has to go for the rest of your life. What are you eating?
Oh, savory, 100%.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
easy one.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you a Pop Tart guy?
Not really.
Not really.
Well, that's not true. Century Ride, you bet your butt.
Are you
You
going
gotta
frosted or unfrosted on that Century Ride?
oh, yeah, if you got frosted, like the cinnamon toast or cinnamon sugar ones or
Yep.
whatever those are. Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Or yeah.
We talked about peanut butter and jelly. So does your Jersey pocket have Uncrustables back there as well then?
I am known to throw some Uncrustables back there, you betcha. I like
Yeah.
especially on a long ride like that, if you don't have a run after,
Yep. Yeah.
solid food all the way.
Uncrustables are a cyclist's best friend. And they
Yeah.
have them in strawberry, grape, Nutella, and honey as well. So you've got your variety pick.
Oh, I didn't realize they had it in honey.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get it with a
Ooh.
honey one version too. All right, last one for you, Rich. I really appreciate your time in playing this most ridiculous food fight game with me. Brownies, they're out of the oven, they're sitting on the counter. Which one are you going for? Are you going for the corner piece? Are you going for the middle piece that has the edge on it? Or are you going for the middle and all the ooey gooey piece?
God, I love it. Your questions are just brilliant. I don't know how, like, you came up with these. The corner piece all the way. I love like, again, like, it's like the crusty part. It's like burnt cheese. I don't know.
Are you a Sicilian fan? Sicilian pizza fan then?
You know, I kinda like pretty much I like all varieties. I would have to say, though, like, if we're gonna go pizza, like, if I had to choose, I only have one more pizza I could ever order. What style would I order? And it would be New York then.
Yes, we win. As a New
Yeah.
Yorker, I'll take that all day. We'll end the show on that note. Rich, thank you so much for joining me on our fireside chat. For those of you who are listening or who are watching on our YouTube channel, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review so we can keep bringing on great guests like Rich. Have a great night, everybody.